to talk to the 95% that are out market, the ones that are not necessarily looking to buy right now, the best thing is to leverage triggers in order to build the right memories in their brain to associate your brand with what you do, right? So those are the series of events that compel people to act.
Welcome to Avidly Talks. This week I'm joined by Louis Grenier, the best bio I've ever seen, I think. A recovering Frenchman who helps marketers stand the fuck out. You're a marketing coach, consultant, you got a really popular daily STFO newsletter and author of a book, Stand the Fck Out, which is your no-nonsense step-by-step guide to help you stand the fuck out without the BS. Bonjour, ça va?
Oui, bonjour, merci. Thank you for having me. It's fun. As I told you before we started recording, I haven't been doing any of this for 3 years, so I haven't done any interviews, speaking engagement, or anything for 3 years to work on the book. It took me way longer than I thought. We can talk about all the stuff that prevented me from publishing earlier, but yes, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, fair enough. Well, my first question was going to be, tell us about your book. So what's it about, and how was that process for 3 years?
Yeah, so it's called Stand the Fck Out, and it's essentially the book I wanted to read that I couldn't find anywhere else. So, as you know, marketing books are sometimes good, but most of them are not, because there might be too focused on one specific methodology that one person used once, and that's it, they're trying to sell that thing, or they're just very empty. It's just like, could be a blog post, or they're scammy, where they like teach you stuff to do that are quite, questionable. So I wanted to write something that I could actually be proud of, something that I could reuse over and over again, something based on first principles. So things that don't change, not based on like flavor of the month. And I wanted it to be a mix of a kind of almost a college textbook with a children's book, So the structure of a college textbook with like clear chapters and clear headlines and clear structure you can follow, with the fun factor of a children's book, something that is light, that you can read easily enough, that doesn't sound like a non-fiction, super boring marketing book.
Interesting. I'd like to read a children's book style with a title like Stand the Fuck Out.
Yeah. So obviously you don't want to share that to your children yet. You see, it's a funny thing. My daughter's school said, you can, if you want to talk about your career, not just to me, but to every parent already, you can talk about your job or whatever. Kids love that. So you can come in, no problem. And I was starting to think, actually love to do that, to talk about creativity and to talk about book writing or stuff like that. And then I was like, I actually cannot do it, because then I'm going to bring the book, and the only thing they'll care about is the swear word in it. That's it, So I can't go into that school. I'm barred. But so it took me 3 years for a few reasons. The first one is I didn't start to write a book 3 years ago. I started to rebuild my methodology 3 years ago, and the excuse was then once I had that, I could write around it, So it took, like, the first part was a lot of research. I wanted to figure out the gaps I had around, what I was teaching.
Where had you worked previously, sort of, just in 30 seconds? What was your background before? Like in-house, agency, teaching, what?
Yeah, so I worked in a small startup as my first job, head of marketing, did sales, marketing. Then I left and did my own, launched my own agency, and burnt out within less than 2 years. Then I joined Hotjar, which is a web analytics company. They were a startup, now they're more of a scale-up. Learned a lot there, work on product marketing, on their positioning, and on content as well. And then I started again to do my own thing, which was 4 years ago, maybe at this stage. with my podcast Everyone Hates Marketers that I've now stopped, but that the podcast was kind of the thread line, like the thing that just has been in my life for like 8 years of my career that brought me so much knowledge and stuff. So yeah, that's what I did before. So then I tried to put everything together into some sort of a methodology I could really use, that anyone could use, something that is was based on first principles, not flavor of the month stuff. So, meaning things that don't change and things that have been proven in the marketing world, in psychology, behavioral psychology, things that we know are true, which there isn't that many things that we know are true. So, I then tested that methodology, right? So I tested it with clients, tested it with like corporate clients, smaller clients, coaching clients, whatever. Got feedback, and then I started to write it. Now, the problem, I mean, it wasn't a problem then. But the problem that appeared is I was working with a crowd called Scribe Media, and this crowd is basically a hybrid publisher. So they are not a traditional publisher that would buy the rights to sell your book, and you'd get, like, I don't know, 50K in advance, and then you'd get 10% of every sale, and they handle the marketing, whatever. So that wasn't, I didn't want to use that because I wanted to have 100% creative control for obvious reasons. And I went with a hybrid publisher, which essentially they help you to write it, to edit it. They do the cover for you, whatever, but you keep 100% of the control.
You just pay a fee.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a service, right? And you keep everything, but they are basically essentially assisting you with your book. But I felt I needed this because I wanted the accountability. I wanted other people to be involved in that project to make me do things, because writing a book, thinking about a book is just the most excruciating thing you can do. In as a marketer, I think, I mean, as anyone, it's just so hard. Some people can do it pretty fast, but I just couldn't, especially the type of book I wanted to write. So the problem was I paid them $36,000 upfront. Um, that would have cost me way more. I mean, maybe 10K more if I hadn't, if I was paying in monthly installments and I wanted to save money. I think it was the smart thing to do. It was, right? I couldn't anticipate what would happen next. So I worked with them for like around 6 months. Things went well, and then the CEO. It was apparent that the CEO was using the company's money for his own stuff, and basically they were bankrupt. Like they literally had no money left. They had hundreds of clients, hundreds of staff, no money left, based in Texas. So I couldn't do anything about it. They essentially, I had half of a manuscript done and 36 grand gone. And yeah, I tried to get the money back and whatever, but I don't want to go into the details because I don't know exactly how it works. But it's essentially because they were bankrupt, there was no asset to retrieve. Therefore, there was no way for creditors, people like me, clients, to get their money back. So
Jeez.
yeah, I just took my losses and I said, you know what? Like I could dwell on that and get sad about it and fucking mad about it and just say I need to do something about it. It's not right, and I just decided to not channel my energy towards that because I couldn't do anything about it, and it hit me hard in terms of the productivity. I stopped working on the book for a while. I went just back to coaching and went back to doing marketing stuff to get money in the bank. And that's when then Joe Pulizzi, who's the former CEO of the Content Marketing Institute, I think, and he wrote many best-selling books. He reached out because we've been in touch before, because they were starting some sort of a hybrid publisher kind of model, so similar to Scribe Media, but for creators, for like content creators, for people like me, essentially, like perfect fit. So they reached out and they picked me up and helped me finish this thing. So yeah, without his help, without their help, I don't know where I would be. So yeah, it's been a journey, but if I were to do it again, obviously I wouldn't lose the 36 grand, but I wouldn't necessarily not do all of the stuff before, like the research and the testing and all of that. I think that was extremely valuable.
Talk about it's beyond a labour of love then, or a passion project.
Yeah.
That's an epic struggle.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not telling you everything. I mean, I could go
No, I can
into
imagine. Yeah.
couldn't go into even more stuff, but yes, it's
How does it feel though, seeing it in, it's there, it's getting sold. I've seen the pictures of you sending out the packages.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, it's there. It feels. That's the thing. It feels. I wouldn't say normal. It feels like organic. It just feels like a normal extension of me. It feels like me 100%, and I'm very proud of it. Sometimes you sell services or products, and I don't know if you've done that before for others, where you don't necessarily believe 100% in
Yeah.
whatever you're selling, right? So there's
Yes.
always like this thing in the back of your mind where like you're not 100% sure, but this, I'm so proud of it, and I have no shame in saying I'm proud of it because I genuinely like it. I think it's
Good.
I think it's a really good book, not just based on my feedback, but the feedback of beta readers. We can talk about that if you want. We're like 70 plus people that I selected went through my manuscripts and trashed it and gave me feedback. And so when I launched it, I knew it was good, not because of
So
my
it's effectively peer reviewed as well already.
exactly. So it's like I knew that I knew that it was good, that people actually found it helpful. And so yeah, it felt really good having it. It felt surreal. But it felt also like a normal thing. Like, yeah, finally this is my thing. This is the new foundation of my business, and I can build things around it. So that felt really good.
What are you doing to promo it?
So I've settled on some sort of a two-phase approach. So phase one being selling directly on my site. Phase two
Mm.
being pushing on Amazon mostly, and to get rich and to reach more people who don't know about me, which is the vast majority of people in marketing. So phase one was really to like leverage my own audience. So on LinkedIn, my newsletter that you mentioned, and the game was to try to get cash flow to increase average order value from just being a book to actually being able to buy more than just the book. So I'm selling three different packages. The cheapest basic one has the paperback sent to you plus the ebook in different formats. So you can upload it to your Kindle or to whatever. You can read it on PDF and whatnot. And then all the way to the Pro package, the third one, which contains a hardcover copy color. So I didn't know those terms before, but the one I'm showing here, it's black and white, and the cover is, it's just a, I don't know how we describe it, in a flexible cover or whatever. Well, the hardcover is, yeah, the hardcover color inside, so it's much more premium feel and all and whatever. And then there's like action kits and a bunch of other things on top of it, right? So our average order value has been around, I think, $65. So instead of something like 9,999 on
Yeah,
Amazon or
yeah.
whatever. So I was very happy with that number. We've sold $35,000 worth of books. I mean, of the packages on my site.
Brill.
So yeah, so that's really good.
That's good. That's one more away from a big sort of fuck you to the.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it actually until you said it. That's actually true. That's a good way. But the difference is that it's not profit. Obviously, it's
No,
helping
no,
you.
no.
Um, so we are going to be able to do this, to be able to sell directly. We are using a company called Lulu, which is Lulu. They are a B Corp. They are a print-on-demand company. They have a few locations where they print books on demand. And the good thing is you can connect it directly to like your Shopify site. And essentially, when someone buys it, I don't send it myself. They print it, send it, fulfill it, like they do everything. So I don't touch the books unless I send them to my directly as a signed copy, but that's a different story. So so that's the good thing about it, like the flexibility. I wanted total creative control, total freedom about the way I was selling it, about the way what I was saying. That was a non-negotiable. So that allowed me to do that. So that phase I feel is almost done. I mean, I'm not gonna stop selling packages, but I think now it's time to move to a traditional sell push.
Not you're not straight into book number 2 then.
There's,
Yeah.
there's no fucking way, man. No fucking way. Like I don't think I have another book in me. I mean, I know everyone says that, but it's such a it's such a kind of a summary or encapsulation of everything I've done, and that I struggle to see how I could do something else. I do think in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, I'll do an extended edition, maybe like add more, whatever. But I wouldn't know where to even start for another book. So yeah, no way. At least for the next 10 years.
You talked about one of the motivations of doing the book was it was not enough books out there about marketing that you do want to read. Which books, or no, which is your favourite book actually from other marketing books that you would recommend to people?
Well, by far, How Brands Grow, 1 and 2, from the Harrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science. Byron Sharp is the guy leading that. They're based in Australia. It's the only book I read that actually backs things up with actual scientific facts about the way people buy. That goes against a lot of thinking, like loyalty. The fact that yes, loyalty is good. You're trying to keep customers as long as possible is good, but that's not how you're gonna increase and grow your company. There's so many truths in there. So I'm a big fan of their work. I love what they have to they say and how they say it. It's a textbook. It's not fun to read,
Hmm.
in terms of you won't have any jokes in there or whatever, and you won't have any roosters wearing purple berets, but you will have some serious science behind marketing, and which is the best thing.
Yeah, it seems super important to you that to have it sort of scientifically backed up. It is. They say, don't they? It's a blend of art and science marketing. So,
Yeah.
your other work you've talked about is doing a lot of coaching, working with marketers of all sorts. I imagine. What's the 3 most common things you see people not doing? Where are they going wrong? Stopping them standing out.
So it's the biggest thing by long mile is the overwhelm, and it's not their fault.
What do you mean?
So the overwhelm of so as a marketer, you're exposed to social media and stuff like that a bit more often than the average. So you get seen so many like messages every day. You're on social for work, you're on social after work, whatever. So there's a lot of that, and then we are surrounded by folks who don't necessarily have any proper training in marketing, who are using psychological biases to make you believe that what you're doing is wrong, to make you believe that there are secrets you don't know, to make you believe that there is like funnels, uh, all of that stuff that essentially they gaslight you, making you believe you suck. And then when you feel down, you then crave the fixes and the tricks that they sell, right? Um, and then there's the evolving nature of marketing where like there seems to be new stuff coming through, like new tools and new whatever. That it seems like it's always changing, right? And so that creates a huge overwhelm for people. The people I work with nowadays, way more in terms of like the actual segment I'm helping are marketing business owners. They seem to connect the most with what I do. So like folks offering services in the marketing, digital, creative, PR space as a freelancer, consultant, or agency owner and stuff like that. And they feel this pain acutely, even more than in-house marketers, it seems. So yeah, they're overwhelmed, and it's not like they don't know what they're doing. It's not like they're stupid, far from it. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. They're too smart for their own good. It's that they're so overwhelmed, they are drowning, and they don't know even where to start. They don't know what to do. They just like there's so many things going on in their life that it's just like they're completely lost. So that's the main thing, right? That I found.
Ha- what's a tip to get over that? How do people stop being overwhelmed?
So you need to go back to first principles. What are the things that we know are true about marketing psychology and stuff like that? So what are the things we know are true and starting from there. So one of the first thing I advocate, which is part one of the book, is insight foraging. So basically getting good insights. That's your base, right? So getting good insight means getting understanding the story from the customer perspective of the job to be done. So why, what is the overall goal, the struggles that almost prevented them from getting that job done, the alternatives that they might have considered, the triggers, which are the events that led them to potentially go into that. Um, and and you need to understand that from their perspective. That's your base, that's your foundation, right? So I can go into step by step if you want. I can go pretty deep into how to do this because I don't want it to be like surface level. So let me know.
Do it.
Okay, so insight foraging. The first rule here is to avoid getting insights from people outside of the following group. People who are recent past customers. Those are the only people you want to learn from. And it doesn't mean recent past customers of yours. It could be recent past customers of the industry, the category, or whatever alternative they're using. You want to have concrete evidence of past behavior, of recent past behavior from people to understand, to have evidence of what's going on. So you don't want to hear from folks who might be interested in what you have to say, but never spend any resources, money, time into what's the problem you solve.
How do people do this though? Because it's hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, and that's the beauty of it. If it was easy, everyone would do it, but almost none do it. So you do it by there's a few ways to do it. So you can do it by looking at your existing data. So you can look at reviews and testimonials. If you're in an industry with a lot of reviews, like in B2C, where like FMCG, where you sell stuff like on Amazon or whatever, you have reviews, you can have thousands and thousands of reviews you can mine for information about why people bought and all the ingredients I mentioned earlier. Testimonials, case studies, sometimes you can even steal them from other people's, competitors' website or whatever. You can find evidence there, but usually they're a bit too polished and a bit too nicey. You don't necessarily have the truth. But you can have internal customer inputs, like emails and conversations with people. What I tend to see is like if you're a business owner and you know your business pretty well, you do have them in the back of your head. I just need to extract them from the perspective of giving you the right framework to know what to look for into your mind, right? And once I tell you those are the key ingredients you need to dig into, they tend to come up with them pretty fast. But if you are not the business owner, if you don't know, if you want to get a refresh and get from other people's perspective, your customer facing staff as well, so your salespeople, customer success, whatever, people who deal with customer directly, you can ask them questions. So that's the first kind of bigger method, existing new data. You can also gather new data. So the typical one will be like surveys, customer interviews. You can have informal conversation with customers. You can join communities. I call it like the Sherlock Holmes approach. Be part of forums and communities, be a fly on the wall. You can literally, like if you sell stuff like orange juice in supermarkets or whatever, sit there and just see how people buy and stuff. And then the last method is relying on knowledge and intuition. So this is something that I used to not advocate for. I used to be a sucker for like extremely structured research, to gather insights only through interviews or surveys, don't believe your own gut, whatever. I've changed my mind because if you don't have this layer of knowledge and intuition, like this gut feeling, the first principles I talked about before, you might be missing some key things that people are never going to talk about. You can get pretty far with other methods, but you do need to understand people at a very deep level for some products and services. And if you don't, you might be missing a trick. So those are the three core methods. And yes, as you said, it's hard, but that's the point. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And yes, you do need to dig into that. But once you have this kind of foundation of why did people buy, like the job, the alternatives, the struggles, the triggers, the category you're in, uh, that's your foundation, right? And it goes back to your question about overwhelm. That's how you stop being overwhelmed, because you start getting very clear, like very, very clear story about this is how people go from A to Z. And once you have that, your goal is to then use that to your advantage, right? To build your unique positioning, to build your brand and whatnot.
I think a good place to start from there, and I'm going to do it myself, is the past 3 customers who've signed with you or bought from you, just reach out to them and try and speak to one of them today.
Yes, 100%. So we've done something when I was at Hotjar that I'm very proud of. We did this round robin um, customer call whenever someone signed up and paid for a specific plan. So we would reach out with a Calendly link that randomly assign someone in our team to interview them. Um, and again, I don't remember exactly what was the incentive for them to do so, but we essentially started to have like a couple of hours a week, each of us in the marketing team, talking to new customers. And we had the same script. I mean, not the same structure. There wasn't a script per se, but the same ingredients that I'm mentioning here. And this creates this like feeling of everyone know their customers super well. And things start to be obvious. You know, you start to learn from them. You have enough information to then naturally like launch campaigns that matter and whatnot. So yes, talking to recent customers, but there's don't limit yourself to this, right? If you don't, for example, have existing clients, right? Let's say, then you can rely on your industry experience if you have it, right? So you can use your intuition, knowledge. You can talk to people in the field. If you don't have industry experience, then you better hope that your industry is an open book, meaning you can like mine reviews and stuff like that for like publicly available information. If you don't, so if you don't have existing clients, if you don't have industry experience, and if this industry is not an open book, then you need to start again, because you won't have solid foundations.
That makes sense. I think we are going on to now something you offer. I'm quoting your website here. Advanced positioning, branding, and lead gen principles to finally stand the fuck out. I may be able to help. Can you explain a bit about positioning, branding, and lead gen principles through a B2B lens? How can people stand the fuck out whilst working in the IT industry or
in a boring industry, like
yeah,
or seemingly boring? So that's usually the best scenario when you work in a crowded market, a boring industry, whatever. This means a few things that are good news. This means there is demand. This means there is money flowing. This means there is like actual problems being solved that people happily pay money for. So well done. You're already much further ahead than you think. So there's like essentially 3 key phases, right? The first one, I've mentioned the insight for aging. That's kind of your foundation, right? Who to sell, who to focus on, what sets you apart, whatever. Unique positioning, that's stage 2. So unique positioning, it's all about giving the right people a genuine reason to pick you over competitors, direct competitors, indirect competitors. So it's not a gimmick to say we are the only one doing this. Well, in fact, you're not. It's really trying to find a set of struggles, problems, pain points, whatever you want to call them, that are ignored by your alternatives, or at least not solved very well. And you want to arrive at a sentence that essentially say, unless other alternatives, we are the only one in that category to solve those ignored struggles for this group of people that others do not, right? So this is a very good internal exercise to get clarity about who you serve, who you don't serve, how you solve the problems and whatnot. So if you're able to write all of that in a one single sentence, you give clarity to yourself, to your employees and whatnot. And it doesn't have to be written on your homepage. This sentence is not meant to be customer facing, but it's meant to give you clarity and direction. And you arrive to that sentence by going through each kind of ingredients that we've collected throughout the first steps through Insight for Aging. So you want to know the alternatives you're actually competing against. Once you know the alternatives that you're actually competing against, you can pick out the problems, the struggles that they are not solving very well. Once you have that, you can then identify who cares the most about those insights, those struggles, to identify your segment. And once you have your segment, you can then move on to picking the right category that this segment will actually feel your product or service are part of. So it's hard enough to do, Sometimes some people can go through it really fast because they have that in their head. They just need to put the puzzle pieces together. Others might take, it might take a while depending on the complexity of whatever you're focusing on, whether it's like a massive brand or a launch of a specific product. But that's how you stop the overwhelm. Once again, that's how you stand the fuck out. So that's positioning. That's the first, the first step towards stopping the overwhelm.
Nice. And then when you start delivering marketing and campaigns and putting it into action, how do you help people sort of come up with things? It's all right knowing those things, but how do you come up with things that help you target them? How do you coach people to make stuff that resonates?
So that would be towards like there's two aspects to it. There is to make stuff that resonates, you need to have a meaningful differentiation. So that's the unique positioning part, and you also have to have some sort of distinctiveness, which is a distinctive brand. So there is a crucial difference between the two. So meaningful differentiation means that you're able to solve problems that others are not solving very well in compared to alternatives in your category. Okay, so that could be extremely specific. It doesn't have to be like something extremely generic and vague that everyone is mentioning. But if you know your customers enough, you can go extremely specific into it. Let me just give you an example before I move on, because I want to make sure we understand what we're talking about here. So let me see. So
What are you going to give us? What are you going to give us an example of here?
So I was about to say, in the book I mentioned a company called Latinos Beauty. They sell organic shampoos for Latinas, in particular in the US and stuff. So I worked with them a while ago, and I think they were a good example of to feature because of the six ingredients, the six questions that I mentioned before. So, right, the job, what did they try to accomplish? The alternatives, what other solution have they used? Struggles, what problem are they trying to solve? Segment, what customer information is relevant? Category, what other things belong in the same group as this product or service? And then triggers, what specific events compel them to act? Okay, so those are the six. I'm coming back to your question, how to create something meaningful that people care about. Because that all connects. So for them, the job would be control the freeze. That's what we found. The main thing people wanted out was to be able to control their hair. Latinas have a specific type of hair that is not like as curly as Afro hair, but not as straight as like other type of hair. I mean, it's apparently it's a mess. Alternatives, well, they were straightening their hair in a salon frequently, so they'd have to find a salon like that specialize in hair for Latinas, like a Dominican barber that knows this and stuff like that. They would maybe do a 2 hour hair care routine with rollers and blow dry, and spend literally 2-3 hours in the bathroom doing that, and then trying all the shampoos from the supermarket. So those are the three main things we found. We didn't make that up. That's all from research and inside foraging. Now the struggles. One of the key one that we saw, I'm going to read a quote directly from a customer. When I go outside, I look like a witch. In other words, the warm, humid weather makes their long, frizzy hair go out of control. Okay, so you can see how specific it is, and you could probably go even more specific here. But folks living in warm, humid weather in the US, so particularly California, Florida, Latinas with long hair, tend to struggle with that the most, because that causes their hair to be out of control more than the average. And so therefore that was our segment. Latinas with long frizzy hair living in humid weather. It's mainly Florida and California. The category is organic shampoo. That's easy. And the triggers, which are the events that make people act, that make go people closer to the purchase. That's not a struggle. A trigger, that's different. They had a big public event coming maybe, or there's a birthday or night out with the girls or whatever, and those are the things that compel them to actually, okay, I need to sort that out before then. So that creates the demand, that creates the action. Okay, so those are the six ones. And to go back to your question then, meaningful differentiation is to be able to like say we solve the struggles in that way. So just by saying to a Latina living in that state that we can help you control the freeze, could be more than enough. In fact, that's what they've done. Could be more than enough to be compelling because you understand them very well. You talk their language. You understand their pain at a level that is a bit deeper than the average. And so that's meaningful differentiation. That's the unique positioning that they have that allow them to deliver meaningful differentiation. So that's the first part. You mean you understand them or whatever. That works really well for people who are in the market. Like around 5% of people. That's a big average in B2B in particular, but around 5% of people in a specific category are looking to buy at any given time. So that works well for people who are kind of in and out looking for things. What works for the rest is focusing on triggers. So we are moving away from pain points per se to say, oh, is your frizzy hair out of control? We move on to the two things I mentioned earlier. These customers had a big public event coming, like a birthday or night out with the girls. So to talk to the 95% that are out market, the ones that are not necessarily looking to buy right now, but in order to build the right memories in their brain to associate your brand with what you do, the best thing is to leverage triggers, right? So those are the series of events that compel people to act, and that could be very much further away in time than just buying, right? So to do this, to do something compelling for this group, then you try to be at the right place, the right time, with the right message, right? Which is something that everyone says, but how do you do it? Well, you do it with the triggers. So for example, here, there's a big public event coming, or birthday or night out. So what time of day or what days of the week, what moments in the year tend to be where those things tend to happen the most? Where, in what locations, right? We mentioned Florida, California are the two main states. Well, in those places, where does the Latina community tend to hang out the most? And even more precisely, when we talk about events and birthdays and night outs, where exactly are we talking about? Like the nightlife and city center of major cities and whatnot. That gives me ideas straight away of the type of things I could be doing. I don't know, out of home, like billboards, or just social ads that are particularly targeted towards those moments, like the Saturday before, or like the Friday morning before they get ready. I'm just
Yeah.
So once you have those two things, you essentially touch the two phases of any marketing plan, which is reaching people who are in market and reaching people who are out of market.
And it's back to what you're saying about it's not easy. What I'm hoping is coming clear is that it takes time, and it takes research, and it takes thinking deeply about what your customers have told you. It's not about doing something quirky. It's not about swearing just for the fun of it.
Yeah, it could be, right? It could be, but that's part of distinctiveness. It could be if it's you and if you feel like this is one dimension you can challenge in your category, but it's not the reason why people will buy from you. It's the reason why they might remember you and whatnot. But yes, it is not easy, but it's not that hard either. It's something that takes taste. You need to develop that taste, learn from it, and the method I'm sharing here it's not just mine. It's based on work from smarter people than me that I've compiled in a way that made sense to me. And you can go through that method in an hour. You can literally just use your intuition to come up with the struggles, everything on your own, and start testing a message in the next hour. Or you can take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and never do anything. So it's always a balance between, yes, you want to make sure things are perfect, that your framework, all the little case, like everything is filled out. But I would really challenge you not to do that, and just exercise your muscle, your research muscle, your creative muscle as fast as possible, making assumptions and just moving on, learning from that, and doing it all over again.
Now, moving on, and intuition and going back to old principles. These are all themes we've been talking about for the past 12 months or so on this podcast, around the age of attribution changing, people going dark on social media, and the digital marketing industry anyway has been at a golden age. We've been able to track every single keyword we've produced a piece of content for, and you could do an inbound campaign with 25 keywords and write a blog for each, which are all essentially pointing at the same bit, and you can track every minute of marketing effort can be accounted for. 2025, we're going back to a lot of old principles. What's your take on where we are in this new year, in this new era, and um, how are you seeing like people talking about it? Are people worried? Are people leaning into the opportunity?
You know what? I'm happy about it. I'm happy about the fact that we are not able to track everything that we thought we could be tracking in the past because, first of all, we were tracking inaccurate data, or at least very, very much not complete data. And we were relying on it way too much. It's like a pendulum, right? I think the pendulum is going back to like more gut feel, traditional way of thinking of marketing, creativity, and brand. Everyone can now produce content extremely fast. Everyone can compete against you and say they are like a fractional CMO, an agency owner, whatever. So all of that is commoditized. The only thing left that will always be left is your ability to understand people deeply, serve their needs in a way that others can't, and be distinctive in their brain so that they remember you amongst others. Um, that will never change. So whether or not you have data. So I understand it's difficult for folks maybe in SEO, PPC, where like there's a lot of changes and it's quite worrying, like social ads and whatever. But if you rely on those principles and use that as your foundation, then the changes around it don't matter as much anymore because you know you have things to fall back on. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially how like Meta and Google and all of that handle all of that changes. But I'm not worried. I think good marketers will always thrive no matter what stuff is thrown at them because they have the foundations.
Nice. Now you also, when I mentioned you coming on the podcast, it was actually because your predictions for 2025 were getting circulated on the Avidly Slack channels, and I was like, cool. It's not just me who's a fan. So I want to look at some of your predictions.
Yeah.
And how people can either avoid or capitalise on these things. And I've just pulled out a few. Number 10, customers' emotional needs will continue to be overlooked in favour of their rational ones, even though we're just meaty machines powered by weak electricity signals. Are people really being too rational still?
So, meaning, are people, like, customers being too rational or
Marketers.
yeah, yeah, I think so because they think that it's easier to think that humans are predictable, like the economics, the professors of economy and all of that love to think about. Um, Even in B2B, like people love to make the differentiation between B2B, B2C, whatever. Like, people don't use any irrational way of thinking in B2B. It's all very rational, whatever. It's just not the truth, right? If you look back at the way you buy, a lot
Well,
of it.
look at how many clients you lose, even though results are good. It's just feel. You can lose a customer, so why can't we win them
Yep.
with gut feel?
Yeah. So I do think, and I do talk about it in the book in terms of how to find good problems to solve, how good struggles that people struggle with. That those irrational struggles tend to be the ones that we dismiss because they are more difficult to think about because people don't say them out loud, right? Like if you work with a very a quote unquote boring IT company in a boring parts of England or whatever, and you interview them about why they bought from you, they'll say, "Oh, we want to increase sales, we want to do whatever." But then, if you really dig into it, there may be things around status that are very important to them. They want to look good in front of their peers. They want to make sure that their son or whoever is going to take over the company is going to be in good hands. There's so many things that you can dig into, and once you touch them, once you understand them, you can really serve them in a way that is different, without necessarily saying that openly, saying, "Oh, you're buying from us because you're fucking weak and you have no confidence in yourself." No, you don't have to say those things, but by understanding them, you can implement things that are different and built on the real reason why people buy. So if you want, I can give a full list of, I mean, it's not a full list, but at least it's most of it, of irrational struggles, the type that are that you can look for.
Give us 3 irrational struggles then that people can look for, or marketers can look for in their customers.
So control freaks, so controlling and organizing chaos. That's something that we strive for. So we don't, as humans, necessarily thrive for finding the best solution to something. We tend to look for the least risky, the more the ones we can control the most, the ones we can organize the most. This is why religions exist. This is why gods. Some people believe in God because the randomness that is existence and the universe and whatever, just chaotic. There's so many things happening, and we don't like that. We need to feel like we understand what's going on. We need to feel like we have control over it, even though we don't. And so, it's easier to think that there's one thing that is responsible for all of that than it is actually just random chaos. So that's one. Um, to go back to give you an example of that, if you go back to the shampoo company I mentioned, this is a quote from a customer regarding this irrational struggle. Never in my life have I been able to weigh my hair down enough and control the freeze, right? So that's a control thing, specifically for hair, specifically for Latinas. You can see how specific we can go. Reducing risk. So I mentioned it, but it's actually separate. Reducing risk, even if means not using the best option. So that's super important as well. People don't pick the genuinely the best option based on rational parameters and criteria. People pick things based on the least risky, what will bring them the least issues and risk, what is unlikely to fail. This is why people would pick a product or service that is number one in the category over anything else, right? Like no one is getting fired from buying IBM. No one is getting fired from buying HubSpot. No one is getting fired from buying Google Analytics, because that's the least risky thing. So once you understand that, you stop to try to say that you're the best, but instead you're the least risky by solving problems, by feeling understood, solving problems that they have that others don't mention and stuff like that. And the last one, let's say fitting in, right? Like craving approval and belonging. So that's also something that it's unlikely people will say out loud. I mean, depending on the industry you're in, but belonging to a group of CEOs who are like showing on LinkedIn that they're growing quarter by quarter, that could lead to someone deciding that they need to do something about that, and they might never tell you. They might just say, look, we need to increase our target and this is it. But no, you need to be able to go one step further and understand, is it because they feel the pressure around them because they want to fit in and all of that. So I hope that gives you some
absolutely
thoughts.
Just recap those three again. So the three ways.
So fitting in, control, and reducing risk.
And they're three irrational things we can tap into. And that'll help us stand out, because so many people are you just rely on the rational, ROI, the blah, blah, blah. Probably time for one more. I was going to run through a few, but marketers will continue to bang their heads against the wall trying to change people's minds rather than tapping into the gold mine of what people already think and do. What do you mean by that?
So the biggest mistake I made earlier in my career was to think that it's super easy to change people's mind or to make them do something you want them to do. And then when you start working in marketing, you realize that good luck trying to make people click on a link even though they've signed up to a waiting list. And this is literally the reason why they sign up. And then you send them an offer and then 5% click, and you're like, what? Why are the 95% not doing anything, right? So it's incredibly difficult to make people do things. It's incredibly difficult to change people's mind. I mean, try to argue with anyone about anything nowadays. Try to make them change their mind. Good luck, right? So the smartest thing to do is to channel what is already there, the demand that is already there, the market demand at a macro level, and then the kind of the thoughts people have at the micro level. What is already going on? Where is the flow? Where is the demand? Don't try to make people change their mind. Just slowly bring them towards you by first giving them what they think they want, and then giving them what they actually want, giving them what they actually need, right? And so it's a subtle, it's a tension between, of course you want to bring them to where you are, but you also don't want to rush it, and you also don't want to be like those CMOs thinking you can create a new category of product or services or whatever, like with your own name, and thinking that people would adopt that and use that in everyday life. So you're not God. You can barely change people's mind that are like in your friends or family circles. So don't think you can do that with customers, and just channel what is already there. That's what I mean.
I like it. Last few questions. I'm going to go less deep and less theoretical, and I want your kind of gut reaction.
Mm.
Why you talked about this before, so this is why I'm asking it. But why does everybody hate marketers?
Well, in the world of Seth Godin, because we are selfish, lying scum. We are there to manipulate people instead of serving them.
Yep. I mean, file me under that. How do you stand out on LinkedIn?
Well, you just used all the stuff we mentioned. I mean, writing and sharing things is just such a creative. It's a difficult thing to do. So you first need to, I think, do a lot, produce a lot, see what sticks, learn from what sticks, and then do more quality stuff based on what you've learned. So it's like quantity, then quality, then quantity again, almost.
Do you use TikTok?
No,
Do you use Instagram?
no,
No. Do you use any social media apart
no.
from for work?
For work, I mean, outside of
No,
work,
outside of work.
I have Facebook Messenger for friends and stuff like that. I don't use anything else because I'm trying to protect my brain from the overwhelm. Seriously, like it's just I could, but I don't.
I'm with you. The last one clinging on that isn't WhatsApp, because I use that as a messenger tool only,
Mhm.
is Reddit, but that's very close to
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
kicked.
I will admit Reddit. Yes.
Really,
Reddit.
I'm trying to shake it. I'm getting there where I was with Instagram of just doom
Yeah.
scrolling.
It's difficult though, but Reddit is not the same beast. I mean, maybe I'm trying to make myself feel better about it. There's an irrational struggle there, but doesn't feel the same as those heavy algorithm-based feeds like Facebook and whatever. You still have some control over it. It feels more. I don't
Depends
know.
which. I guess it depends which little community you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
What
agree.
what would you done? What would you have done with the marketing budget for Wicked?
It's going to be a cop out, but I think they've done a good job in terms of like pushing the Ariana Grande and the other one I forgot her name, and just building association this way. I
As
think
a Frenchman, what did you make of turning the Arc de Triomphe green?
I'm not from Paris, so I don't have any
Fuck those guys.
anything here.
You live in Dublin, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you spent time in England?
As little as
Scotland?
I can, as little as possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best bit about Irish food compared to
French food.
creamy, gout-inducing French cuisine?
So first of all, fuck off. Second of all, the the um, the best thing actually is the quality of the ingredients. So the dairy products, like the milk and all of that, is fucking amazing. The meat as well, beef in particular, lamb, is really really good. So they have very very good quality ingredients. Now it's what they do with it that becomes an issue.
Okay.
Well, I'll stop here.
You send emails every day. How long are you, as an email writer, listening? Any tips for like how you approach producing your newsletter? Are you documenting rather than creating? Or how far in advance are you working? How long are you spending on editions? That's about 8 questions. Sorry.
Yeah, sometimes I spend a minute on send, sometimes spends 2 hours. Um, the best advice I can give is use a deadline that is public facing. I
Nice.
think there's a quote from a writer from SNL, Saturday Night Live, and they say, "We don't go live because we're ready. Uh, we are ready because we go live." And so it's
Nice.
like you can always work towards more refinement, whatever. And
I
as
find
long,
that really freeing as well because you
oh,
can. I
absolutely,
think you've done it as well. You can just go, look, I've been slammed today, so I've not got long for this one. Then all of a sudden, you've got a super engaging newsletter that's
yeah.
one-to-one conversation and really human.
So I struggle more to write a weekly or monthly newsletter than I do a daily because of
Mm.
that.
Yeah, I
So
can imagine. Where can we buy your book? Last question.
just search for Stand the Fck Out, you'll find it.
Amazing, and we'll of course put the link
Thank you.
on the page. I was going to ask you at the end before we chatted, what's one thing listeners can do this week to better stand out? But we've already said it. Go and talk to your most recent customers, as many of them in the past, however fast you sell.
Yeah, and you don't have to talk to your own. Just try to like start from the foundation. The best advice I can give nowadays is be careful about those marketers, fake marketers, bro marketers, gaslighting you, making you believe that there are secrets you don't know, making you believe there's funnels you should use, tools you should use, that you're missing out, you're getting left behind. That's not true. Marketing as a discipline is not changing because people are not changing. Psychology, behavioral psychology is the same. If anything, we change extremely slowly, and so don't worry about that. Just focus on foundational stuff, and then you can sprinkle in the newer stuff and the new.
I was going to say, there's a nice paradox, isn't there? You still need to be like tactically deciding, okay, do I go on TikTok instead of yeah.
And I don't shy away from tactics. I use tactics like that. I'm on LinkedIn because it's hot and whatever. But like if LinkedIn dies, I'll move on. I don't care. I'm not attached to anything. But there is core things that will never change. So don't believe those people gaslighting you. It's not true. Start from the foundation, and you'll be less overwhelmed.
Amazing. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit subscribe, and also please go and grab Louis' book at book.stfo.io, or just Google Stand the Fuck Out book.
Yeah.
Probably quicker. Nice one. We'll see you next time. Au revoir, Louis. Merci.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode? Then be sure to leave us a comment, a review, and hit that follow button. See you next episode.